Terms then is that you were acting on your own not in accordance with instructions from either the minister or the national commissioner.
I was not acting on my own, I was acting in terms of my mandate as the head of detectives.
South Africa's Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says there is a possibility that the 5 mine workers trapped at Ekapa Minerals mine in Kimberley in the Northern Cape province since Tuesday following a mudslide incident have died. Mantashe made these remarks following an inspection visit to the mine today. Minister Mantashe says the situation at Ekapa is a disaster following the announcement of 41 deaths of miners last year. He says rescue efforts will take longer than anticipated.
What you should remember, we've just announced a record of 41 deaths in the industry for the year 2025. And we're starting this new year with a disaster, which is a bad sign for the industry. But we're here, we're hoping that those people will be rescued. We've gone underground. I can tell you that it's going to take longer than we expected. We can sugarcoat it to make people grow hope, but it's quite difficult because there's water at this side, there's drilling happening, it's 20 meters above the body, and it is just a complex exercise.
South Africa's acting police minister Feroz Kachalia says the murder rate decreased by 8.7% between October and December last year compared to the previous year. He was speaking during the release of third quarter crime statistics in Pretoria. Kachalia says despite this, crime levels in the country remain unacceptably high.
While we have seen double-digit reductions in murder in 5 provinces, namely KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, the Free State and Northwest, much smaller decreases were recorded in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, with slight increases recorded in Limpopo and the Northern Cape.
Lastly, a BBC investigation shows that the high death rate of Russian soldiers in the Ukraine war is having the greatest impact on villages and small towns away from Moscow. The BBC, alongside the Russian media outlet Mediazona, has been keeping a tally of dead Russian troops identified by names. The BBC's Olga Ifisha.
From a population of just 258, 39 men signed contracts to fight in Ukraine. 12 are confirmed dead and 7 are missing. Across Russia, the pattern is similar. The BBC's analysis shows 2/3 of confirmed Russian deaths come from rural areas and small towns, even though less than half the population lives there. The loss rate is lowest in major cities and far higher in poor regions. And on a per capita basis, some indigenous minorities in Siberia and the Far East are disproportionately affected.
Recapping on your top stories, a lawyer representing one of the suspects in the shooting incident at the home of the former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe's son in Hyde Park, Johannesburg in South Africa, says they are closely monitoring the police investigation. He was speaking to the media outside the property where police are continuing their search for the firearm that was used in the alleged shooting of a 23-year-old employee. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Aries Management plans sports fund for European investors, while Floyd Mayweather's billionaire bravado on the line as he faces court battle over bounced checks. I'll tell you more at 4:30.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is a very good Friday afternoon to you, Egypt, Tunisia, Senegal, Eritrea. Good afternoon to you, Lesotho, Eswatini. Good afternoon, Africa. Welcome to Africa in Business on Channel Africa. I'm Thami Ngubeni. It is the 20th of February. Here's what we've got in store for you this Friday afternoon. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is facing antitrust investigation across 21 African markets. This is over the amendment of its WhatsApp AI rules. And Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz meet to strengthen cooperation in security, power and infrastructure.
60 years of Channel Africa, your trusted voice, your African perspective into the future.
Mozambique has announced a comprehensive digital transformation agenda aimed at integrating government systems, improving public service delivery and strengthening economic competitiveness. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But for now, let's take a look at the several public sector unions in South Africa, including FEDUSA and COSATU, have strongly criticized the recent contribution hikes by medical schemes. The increases include a 9.8% adjustment in January, followed by a further 9.5% rise set to take effect on the 1st of April. The unions argue that the steep increases are placing an additional financial burden on workers and have announced plans to stage a protest tomorrow against the escalating monthly contributions for the government employees' medical schemes. Katlego Lekhodi reports.
Trade unions in the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council maintain that the GEMS medical aid contribution increase are economically unjustifiable, socially regressive, and inconsistent with the founding mandate of the Government Employees Medical Scheme. FEDUSA's Joseph Mashego says workers have over time been cancelling their membership as they struggle to keep up with steep contributions.
We are looking at the increase that has accumulated over time, because in 2025, and that is not even looking way back to other years, but if we were to take it from 2025 itself, GEMS implemented an increase of 13.4%. Now, when you add that to the increase of 9.8%, which was revised from February to 9.5%, you are talking of around 23% increase. Now, that is a very high increase. The day before yesterday, I received a message from a member who says my medical aid increased from 4,100 to 7,300 rands. So how is that person supposed to now afford medical aid? Some people are forced to cancel.
COSATU Zanele Sabela says GEMS has get off its mandate to become commercial at the expense of workers.
They unilaterally went on and put on this increase over and above the fact that, the Medical Schemes Council has recommended to them that, an increase of 3.3% would actually be reasonable. And so they tripled that and went way above, and this is where we're sitting. It's not something that should be happening. When you are right, when you say GEMS was meant to be an affordable medical aid that provides medical cover for public servants who are low to middle income earners. And it was never meant to be a commercial venture.
The South African Policing Union's Lesiba Tubahali says they've been left with no choice but to take to the streets.
Workers received 5.5% salary increase last year, which was then swallowed in January by the hikes that GEMS have given. There is no balance in between. We cannot allow that. The economy is not good for the workers. What they have received, they are not able to really bring something home, and a status has to change.
But the medical aid scheme believes the hikes were justified and necessary for long-term sustainability. The organization's Dr. Stanley Molwabi says that the planned demonstrations would be unfortunate as they are open to discussions.
Once you have done your calculations, you submit to the Council for Medical Scheme. And if you happen to have underpriced in this case would be a low contribution increase, the Council will not approve your plan for the coming year. So this 9.8 and then 9.5 was approved by Council purely on the basis that it is the percentage that would enable GEMS to cover the claims or the healthcare needs of the members for 2026. And that's where this 9.8 comes from. So the 3.3 is not like a directive or a must or a cap as you refer to it. It is a guide. On the issue of consultation, we consult. And it is, I find myself always in a very difficult situation having to say, but this is true, but this is not true.
The unions plan to roll out a program of mass action, starting with demonstrations at the GEMS head office this weekend, followed by lunch hour pickets on the 24th of February and a National Day of Action at the GEMS head offices in Pretoria later next week. There are also planned meetings with ministers responsible for public service and administration, health, and finance on the matter. Katlego Logodi, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Stay ahead with Africa in Business, where Thami Ngubeni unpacks your go-to source for Africa's economic trends and development.
It is exactly 15 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. We set our sights now on Nigeria, where Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has held talks with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz on strengthening cooperation in security, power and infrastructure. The discussions focused on reviving the stalled Siemens-backed electricity project aimed at boosting Nigeria's power supply, as well as potential German support for Nigeria's security operations, including the supply of used helicopters to address rising insecurity in the Sahel. For more on this, we joined this afternoon by senior international consultant specialist and the author of Economic Diplomacy of the Diaspora, Collins Nweke. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to African Business. Good to have you with us again.
My pleasure to be with you, Thami. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Let's start off with the Siemens Power Project. That was launched in 2019 with some very, very ambitious targets. What went wrong with that particular project? And can this renewed political commitment that is being demonstrated by the meeting of these two heads realistically fast-track the delivery of that project?
What went wrong, Thami, was not a lack of vision, but pure and simple, a failure of execution discipline. When the Siemens project was launched, like you mentioned, in 2019, it was built on a sound idea. And that idea is fixed transmission and distribution first, then scale generation. But the project ran into three structural problems as far as I'm concerned. First, policy inconsistency. Frequent changes in leadership and priorities within Nigeria's power institution slowed approvals and implementation as well as certification. Secondly, finance bottleneck was another issue. Nigeria struggled to align sovereign guarantees, counter-funding, and timelines with German financiers. And then thirdly, perhaps most importantly, institutional fragmentation. There were too many agencies, overlapping mandates, and weak coordination. Now, the renewed engagement between Bola Tinubu and Friedrich Merz changes the political economy of the project. This is leader-to-leader backing, not just a technocratic, goodwill. Can it be fast-tracked, you asked? And indeed, realistically, yes. I would say yes, but conditionally. If Nigeria ring-fences the project, insulates it from politics, and treats it as national economic infrastructure rather than a ministerial program, then delivery timelines can be compressed quite meaningfully.
So when we look at this particular deal, Germany, through Siemens and the Deutsche Bank, is reportedly ready to finance and implement the project. What does this signal about investor confidence in Nigeria's power sector? Or is it more about deal brokering at the highest of levels as opposed to it being an indicator of general investor confidence in the power sector in the country?
It's more than that, Thami. It signals conditional confidence, not blind optimism. The willingness of Siemens and Deutsche Bank to re-engage tells us two things, very clear things. First, Nigeria's fundamentals still matter. Germany would not be considering long-term exposure if it believed Nigeria was systematically uninvestable. The market size, demand profile, and reform signals still attract serious capital from around the world. Second, and this is key, investors now want structure before sentiment. They are backing projects with sovereign alignments, clear risk sharing, and enforceable timelines, not vague reform promises. So, This is not just about electricity, it's a referendum on whether Nigeria can restore credibility by delivering one complex capital-intensive project properly. If this works, it sends a powerful signal far beyond the power sector.
Let's move on to the other deal now, and that's Germany's potential supply of helicopters. How much of a role really is that going to have in Nigeria's intelligence capacity in the Sahel? Will it actually make an impact?
Well, I would say, Thami, that it is tactically useful, but strategically limited, unless embedded in a wider framework. And let me explain briefly what I mean by that. Helicopters enhance mobility, surveillance, and rapid response, especially in terrain-challenged regions like the Sahel security crisis. So, yes, they can strengthen Nigeria's operational reach, but equipment alone does not win security battles, not at all. The real value comes when hardware is matched with intelligence sharing, training, maintenance support, and regional coordination. Germany's engagement here matters less for the helicopters themselves and more for what it represents. European recognition that Sahel insecurity is not Africa's problem alone, because people often think that, a problem in Sahel is a problem far from the European bed. It's a shared risk. If this evolves into deeper security cooperation, then it becomes strategically significant. If it remains transactional, its impact will be greatly, reduced. Now, let me say this, Thami. This conversation with Germany is not about aid or goodwill. It is about whether Nigeria can finally convert partnerships into performance and power into productivity.
Well, we certainly have to wait to see what the outcome of this is, but certainly the seeds are there for what could potentially be a mutually lucrative relationship for both countries. We thank you so much, Mr. Collins Nweke, for your expert analysis this afternoon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was Senior International Consultant Specialist and author of Economic Diplomacy of Diaspora, Collins Nweke. Quite interesting there, and a great point that he made, that the fact that the helicopters are going to be dispatched is not so much of a strategically expedient move. Tactically, yes. But in order for it to be strategically, prudent and beneficial, there has to be some intelligence sharing and regional cooperation. And the mere fact that these conversations are being had, perhaps that is a start. That door is open, and maybe that's where it will lead to have that further intelligence backing in order to further strengthen security in the Sahel region. It's 23 minutes after 4.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
It is 23 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time as we turn our attention now to the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa Competition and Consumer Commission has launched an investigation into Meta. This follows an amendment to WhatsApp's user agreements, which reportedly limits how other AI chatbots can access WhatsApp's application programming interface or API. The probe comes after a complaint was filed by the competition and consumer advocacy group, Ad Legal, and will cover all 21 member states of COMESA. For more on this, we joined this afternoon by Aziz Kitaka, practice lead at Ad Legal International. A very good afternoon to you. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much, the program presenter.
So what is it, sir, that prompted Ad Legal to file the complaint against Meta regarding WhatsApp's AI restrictions?
Well, Ad Legal, being an advocacy practice group which rotates around the COMESA region and the East African region, we were prompted to have this matter investigated by the COMESA Competition Commission because of several reasons, one of which is that for quite a long time, we have always, Africa has been on the receiving end of the products which are made by the various big tech companies. Now, for quite some time, on a regional level, we have never had a voice for the African continent or the region to assert against anti-competitive practices by the big tech. And this was an opportunity for the region to have such matters investigated, given the fact that AI markets are new all over the world, and regulators are trying to come up with rules on how to regulate them. So basically, the complaint is premised on grounds that we intend or we want to see innovation thrive within Africa, as well as having the entire AI market free for every AI user or every AI innovator to operate within the region.
So what are the main concerns or the specific violations that you believe Meta is committing under the COMESA competition law? I understand from your explanation now what your eventual outcome is and what your desired outcome of this entire case would be. But what are the main concerns that you've highlighted or the violations?
Well, the concerns are not so foreign or do not deviate from the ones that we saw the Brazilian Competition Commission together with the EU. They are not so different from those that are currently being investigated. But to give it context, in October 2025, Meta made some amendments to its terms under the WhatsApp business. And with these terms, Meta clearly stated that AI providers, which we termed as third-party AI chatbot providers, they were locked out with effect from 15th October 2025. So this meant that even within the 21 COMESA countries, these AI chatbot providers were required to vacate the app so that Meta maintains its AI application, which is currently Meta AI. And to us, we felt that this was anti-competitive under the rules for COMESA because we clearly have provisions which prohibit abuse of dominance. And when you look at the 21 COMESA region, Meta currently has a market share which is estimated to be at around 90%. So this means that Meta critically has a critical. It operates as a critical gateway to the different AI providers which intend to operate on the app. And we saw this happening in the investigations which happened in Italy, where ChatGPT clearly stated that in its report and analytics, they realized that having their application on Google or the main search engines, and also comparing it with having it on WhatsApp, their statistics indicated that most people visited ChatGPT via WhatsApp compared to visiting ChatGPT via the main Google application. So basically, WhatsApp being a dominant player within the communication services ecosystem, it prompting other AI providers to be off this, to be off the app, critically amounts to abuse of dominance within the COMESA rules.
I'd like us to wrap up with this, Mr. Kitaka. What are the steps that you as AdLegal hope that COMESA will take if indeed the investigation confirms this anti-competitive practice?
Well, one of the outcomes that we hope to receive will automatically come out of the prayers that we made to the Commission, whereby we requested the Commission to find that our complaint had a prima facie case, which the Commission found, and therefore moved on to issue the notice of investigation. And we also hope to have the Commission investigate the matter right now to its conclusion, to find that Meta holds a dominant position within the consumer services via apps ecosystem, and also to hold it accountable to having these practices exercised out of the requirements required by the Competition Commission.
All right,
Now,
Mr. Kitaka, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it at that. I will have to leave it at that for this afternoon. But I do thank you very much for comprehensively putting all of this into perspective for us. We thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
That's Mr. Aziz Kitaka. He's the practice lead at AdLegal International. We'll follow that case up and give you an update as to how it unfolds. It's exactly 4:31 Central African time. Let's head over now to the markets desk, where Buntle Hedbush is standing by with your latest market indicators.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Thami. Good afternoon. And our final look at the indicators this afternoon. $1 is trading at 16 Rand 11 in South Africa. In Botswana, it's trading at 13 Pula 10. In Namibia, it's at 16 Namibian dollars 11. The Zambian kwacha is trading at 18 kwacha 74 this afternoon. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 14. Ethiopia, 154 birr 30. In Uganda, it's 3,551 shilling, while Tanzania is at 2,582 shilling. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,343 naira. In Egypt, it's at 47 Egyptian pound 28. In Tunisia, it's trading at 2 dinar 86, while Algeria is 129 dinar and 7. In Morocco, the dollar will cost you 9 dirham and 6 this afternoon. In Angola, it's 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is trading at 2,258 to the US dollar. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $5,022 per ounce. It's inched up this afternoon. Platinum also higher at $2,133 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is $71.41 a barrel. And that's your indicators. For any stories you would like to share with us, please do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. For the Channel Africa Business Desk, I am Buntle Hedbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And for the latest from the business of sport, here's Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you so much, Thami. A very good afternoon from the sports desk. Now, ticket prices for the 2026 FIFA World Cup has skyrocketed on FIFA's official resale platform, with seats for many matches listed at several times they face value, even though most tickets have only recently been distributed following the end of the main sales phase in January. So weeks after FIFA President Gianni Infantino warned that tickets made available on resale sites were likely to come with the exorbitant price tag, those fears have now come to pass on World Football's own platform. So this week, the Category 3 seat, which is the highest section of the stands for the tournament's opening game between Mexico as well as South Africa at the Mexico City Azteca Stadium on the 11th of June, was listed at $5.3 thousand compared to the original price of $895.
Yes, the prices, have been, they have been fixed, but then in the US in particular, there is this thing called dynamic pricing, meaning the price will go up or down. You are allowed as well to resell your tickets on official platforms, secondary markets, so their prices as well will go up. That's part of the market that we are in.
Onto this now. Areas management is reportedly planning to create a big scope sports fund for European investors later on this year. The fund will target debt as well as equity investments in sports leagues, teams, as well as sports-related businesses, as well as in media and entertainment companies. Now, this would also echo a similar approach taken by the firm in the USA, with the firm currently raising money for a second institutional sports fund from US-based individuals. Now, the Wall Street Journal reported last August that it had held its first close on $1.4 billion for the fund, which represents more than 70% of its target size. Now, a regulatory filing made by Ares said it saw increased investment opportunities in the sports space last year, which was fueled by strong fundamentals, rising demand for live unscripted content, as well as structural shifts such as the centralization of media rights at the league level that have created longer dated and much more predictable revenue streams. Ares owns minority stakes in Chelsea, Inter Miami, as well as the Miami Dolphins firm already has also a dedicated sports fund in the USA. On to some boxing news now. Boxing icon Floyd Mayweather Jr. is being sued by an upscale Miami jeweler over $1.375 million of bling in yet another case where alleged creditors are chasing money from the undefeated boxing legend. So Mayweather, who earned more than $1 billion in his 50-fight career, visited AJ Jewelry twice in August of last year and picked up an astonishing shopping list of 27 watches as well as 15 chains worth $1.6 million. That's according to the latest lawsuit. But the flamboyant boxer is alleged to have paid only $300,000, with 5 checks for the remainder are said to have bounced. Now, the new case in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court closely follows a New York lawsuit claiming the retired fighter owes $330,000 in unpaid rent as well as damages on a $24 million leased Manhattan penthouse. It also comes after another Miami jewelry store filed a federal lawsuit against Mayweather in the Southern District of Florida in January of this year. That claims the boxer failed to uphold a 2024 settlement agreement of over $4 million of watches as well as jewelry. Tennis news now. The Qatar Mobile Open in Doha, Qatar, which is this year, runs from the 16th to the 21st of February, has announced a prize money total of $2.8 million for the 2026 edition. Now, the singles champion will earn $530,000, which is 2.67% increase from what the winner last year picked up. Now, the runner-up will get an increase of 2.6%, which is about $285,000 in remuneration. Now, the winning doubles team will then split $174,000, with the finalists splitting only $92,000. And finally, in the world of NFL, the Seattle Seahawks have officially been put up for sale as of Wednesday, just weeks after the NFL franchise won the Super Bowl. Now, the Seahawks has been owned by the Allen family since 1997, when the club was purchased by the late Microsoft co-owner Paul Allen. His sister Jody has controlled the team since Paul's death in 2018 and has also long said it would eventually be sold under her brother's plans to give most of his wealth to charity. Now, talks with potential buyers are expected to continue through the 2026 off-season. Now, the NFL owners must then ratify a final purchase agreement. The Seahawks defeated the New England Patriots 29-19 earlier, just last month, to claim just their second Super Bowl title. At 16:39 p.m. Central African Time concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. Have a great sporting weekend. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu Di Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Your life, your rhythm, your Africa. Channel Africa. Find it for free on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Africa means business. Tune into Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni for the future of the African economy. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Thank you to Buntle Headbush and Musibudi Makura, who take us to exactly 4:40 Central African Time. We turn our focus now to Mozambique. The country has announced a comprehensive digital transformation agenda aimed at integrating government systems, improving public service delivery, and strengthening economic competitiveness. President Daniel Francisco Chapo described the initiative as a structural reform of the state rather than simply a technological upgrade. Channel Africa's economics reporter Innocent Samosa spoke with Americo Mochanga, Mozambique's Minister of Communications and Digital Transformation.
Speaking at the opening of the country's first national conference on digital transformation in Maputo, President Chapo emphasized that digitization should be viewed as a governance reform designed to modernize public administration and drive inclusive growth. Americo Muchanga, Mozambique's Minister of Communications and Digital Transformation, outlines how digitizing the country's economy is reshaping industries, improving public services, and expanding opportunities for businesses and citizens across Mozambique.
Well, first of all, the scale of the flooding that we had in Mozambique, and we have also a number of other natural disasters that we face every year. The impact that it will help, in particular in terms of life claiming, it will be higher.
The country has reaffirmed digital transformation as a key pillar of its national development agenda. This remains a critical conversation for many African leaders seeking innovative ways to modernize and grow their economies. Muchanga also shares his message with the business community.
Mozambique has always been ready, but what I want to say is that now Mozambique is even ready, because all the things that we want to do in digital transformation, they cannot be done by the state itself or by the servant employees. It has to be delivered by the private sector. So we are actually calling on the companies that act on those areas to be aware of the opportunities in Mozambique.
From an investment perspective, does this position Mozambique as a more attractive destination for tech and digital infrastructure investors? Economist Dr. Wilker Diaz shares his perspective.
But one very important point, it's the centralization of the public procurement. And that centralization of the public procurement for the digitalization in Mozambique we have some failures during this process because the most part of the time we saw the companies with some people from the one exclusive party winning that type of process. We saw the polemic case in the agriculture minister.
Dr. Diaz says this is important not only for the public sector, but stresses that private sector participation will be crucial to ensuring the success of the plan.
So that digitalization will be very important not only to the public sector but also in the education sector, in the health sector, because if you look on the first step to the education, we're talking about the technology. It's the key from the education in the future. So if we created conditions, good conditions to the people have access to the internet, not expensive costs like we saw right now. In the different perspective, if we expand to the rural areas and etc., maybe we will see a different perspective.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Samosa in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
It is exactly 4:44 Central African time. We move from news from Mozambique to a focus on South Africa, where the Competition Commission has found that PG Glass and Glassfist engaged in cartel behavior by colluding to fix prices. The investigation, prompted by a complaint, revealed that the two rivals in automotive glass distribution and installation allegedly agreed to fix prices for products supplied to end users and insurance companies. The Commission has since referred the case to the Competition Tribunal for prosecution. For more on this, we joined this afternoon by Makhale Mohlala, the head of Cartels Division at the Competition Commission of South Africa. Very good afternoon to you. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business.
Afternoon to you and afternoon to the listeners.
Could you kindly take us through your findings of the alleged price-fixing conduct by both PG Glass and Glassfit?
Our investigation found that PG Glass and Glassfit had a long-standing agreement in terms of which they increase the prices of the automotive classes with the same percentage point annually. So they will increase. If PG says the increase this year it's 16%, Glassfit will do the same thing. They will all increase the same amount. So this then effectively means that they are not competing. There is no rivalry between them, but then there's a cooperation. They cooperate to the detriment of consumers. So this conduct constitutes price fixing in terms of the Competition Act, and it is prohibited. So after we found the evidence that this is what they were engaged in, we, as the Commission, decided to refer the matter to the Competition Tribunal for prosecution.
And was the Commission able to find the mechanisms used by these two companies in order to coordinate these prices?
Well, they were communicating among themselves. You may know that actually PG, it's part of the Shutterproof. Shutterproof is the manufacturer of the automotive class. It supplies both Shutterproof and both Glassfit and PG class with the automotive class. So they were communicating among themselves to say that this is what they need to do, and they were also trying to, in fact, for the longest time, to block any entrant into the market. So if you want to enter the market to sell the automotive class, because Shutterproof is the supplier, so they will block you and ensure that only them actually get to supply. They also had, there was a call center, they call it the DigiCall, where when you call to lodge a claim for a class, the call goes to DigiCall, and DigiCall will then allocate it to between them. Either it gives the client to PG or it gives to a Glassfit. So there were some platforms that they had which they used to communicate among themselves.
So what are the type of penalties that these companies could face if they're found guilty by the Competition Tribunal?
So the penalty is it's really in monetary terms. We requested as the Commission the maximum penalty allowable by the law, which is 10% of their annual turnover, respectively.
All right. And do we have an idea of when this outcome will be delivered?
Well, no, because it's a different process. We file the charges, so to speak, and the prosecution process is going to start. And then only at the end of the prosecution process, that's when the tribunal will make a pronouncement.
Mr. Makhale Mohlala, thank you so much for your update. Very much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Mr. Makhale Mohlala. He's the head of the Cartels Division. Thank you, sir. He's the head of the Cartels Division at the Competition Commission of South Africa. Collusion there, price fixing, cooperation to the detriment of the consumer. between PG Glass and Glassfit. Takes us to exactly 4:49 Central African time. In just a moment, a conversation with Joëlle as she prepares for Vue d'Afrique.
From markets to innovation. From markets to innovation. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Standing by for Vue d'Afrique, which takes over in about 10 minutes' time as we hand the reins over to the French deck. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour à toi, Thami. Bonjour à vous, auditeurs de Channel Africa. Sur Vue d'Afrique, tout à l'heure, il sera question du Sénégal qui compte faire adopter un projet de loi visant à durcir les peines pour homosexualité, mais aussi de l'ambassade de France en RDC qui confirme la présence de soldats français à Kisangani dans le nord-est de la RDC. Nous parlerons également du Cameroun. 5 à 10 ans de prison ferme pour des soldats reconnus coupables du massacre de Garbu en février 2020. C'est tout à l'heure sur Vue d'Afrique. Merci de rester connecté. Merci, Thami.
Oh, you speak like a song.
Ah, really?
Yes.
A melody.
You are, look, you speak like a song. That's Joëlle. She'll be singing in French from 5 p.m. this afternoon.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has connected the continent. Celebrate the journey. Celebrate the African perspective.
So we wrap up this afternoon with a look at Africa's water systems. They are said to be in a crisis, with about 845 million people lacking safely managed drinking water and over 900 million having no access to safe sanitation. Analysts say that ensuring reliable water services in sub-Saharan Africa will require governments, communities and development funders to work together. By coordinating infrastructure, investment, information and institutions, the region can build sustainable and resilient water systems for everyone. For more on this, we joined on the line by Arthur Kope, the president of the South African Council for the Quantity Surveying Profession. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business.
Good afternoon, Thami, and to your viewers. Thank you for having us as the Council of Quantity Surveyors.
Good to have you with us, sir. So could you point for us what the biggest policy gaps currently are that are preventing reliable water access across the African continent?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think I think the government has done exceptionally well in terms of policy, Thami. I'll be very honest with you. We are interacting with some of the municipalities in terms of finding out what the real problems are. But I think the side that really lacks attention is the implementation side, where we see a lot of accountability not being fully implemented. And I think that's where we need to really try and focus on as professionals in the industry to help the government to try and mitigate most of these challenges that we're facing with.
And talking about governments, how can they create stronger coordination between national, regional, as well as local water management authorities? What is it that they are not doing?
We have a couple of challenges. It's a multi-layered. I mean, if you look at South Africa, we per capita, an average person out of the 62 million or so, we're using almost 200 liters per day per person. If you look at other countries, you will see that they're just under 200, 180, 170. And 40% of that, Thami, is it's a loss because of the leakages, because of the poor infrastructure maintenance, and also just because the government doesn't really have enough funds to fix all our problems.
So, talking about communities now, how can they be more directly involved in managing and protecting their own water resources?
We have to capacitate our municipalities in terms of innovation or ways in which to be aware. I mean, I am not against having a car wash, but if we are not regulated, I'll use that water the whole day, Thami, to wash cars, and there will be a pipe leakage, and the response time from the municipality to try and and fix those issues. All of that accumulate to issues where we have a water shortage in the country. So we need to use our graduates who are unemployed in the technical space to close those gaps and teach the communities in terms of using the water more sparingly, while we're trying to figure out long-term solutions.
And the type of infrastructure investments that are most urgent in order to meet Africa's future water needs, what would you highlight those to be?
Smart monitoring systems, your modular treatment plants, and some water reuse technologies, some climate adaptive designs. All of that is available. But what we need is to get everyone around the table, private sector and public sector, to see how best we can implement this in the most efficient way with the little resources that the country has currently.
And are there any successful public-private partnership models in the water projects that could be scaled perhaps across the entire continent?
I wouldn't say that, except for obviously finding to which we cut water off at certain times. That's the most immediate, because then what it also does, besides just saving or rationing water, it also just it makes people aware that they need to be responsible. But in terms of implementing technologies physically on the ground, we are still trying to figure out how best we can raise funds for long-term solutions on that space. So it really have to be water rationing, something similar to load shedding.
Mr. Arthur Kupe, thank you so much for your insight this afternoon. Much appreciated, sir.
Thank you, Thami, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. That's Mr. Arthur Kupe. He's the president of the South African Council for Quantity Surveying.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'Export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
Here's a quick recap of what we had in store for you for this Friday edition of Africa in Business. We took a look at some public sector unions who are not happy at all, strongly criticizing, in fact, the recent contribution hikes by medical aid schemes. These include a 9.8% adjustment in January, followed by another 9.5% rise, which is set to take place on the 1st of April. And government employees saying it's simply unaffordable. This is the medical aid schemes for government, and they're saying this is simply untenable. So the union standing up about that. And renewed talks between Nigeria and Germany at the top levels, with the president of Nigeria meeting with the German chancellor to resuscitate some of the projects that the two countries should have been embarking on, including the Siemens power project that was launched in 2019, that seeming to get a very much boosted propeller there in order to move that forward, and also some cooperation as far as state security is concerned, with Germany potentially supplying helicopters to strengthen surveillance in the Sahel region for Nigeria. Also, conversation with COMESA as they are taking Meta on concerning some violations that Meta has allegedly instituted regarding who can actually access and use the WhatsApp application. There have been some adjustments to the WhatsApp application programming interface, the API there. So this is really relevant for all 21 of the member states of COMESA, and Ad Legal is who we spoke to this afternoon. So we'll leave it at that for this Friday's edition of Africa in Business. From myself, Thami Ngubeni, and the entire team, you have yourself a splendid weekend ahead, and we hand you over now to the French desk with Vue d'Afrique. Restez connectés.